When investigating large-scale data structures, the first challenge is simply comprehending the sheer volume of the individual nodes. We are looking at a system built to house millions of distinct cataloged human profiles. The population ceiling here is hard-coded. The database contains exactly 4,800,000 distinct entries. Every single piece of this data is governed by a singular text, the Princess Heartline third batch official directory. Behind the appearance of a community roster lies a programmatic taxonomy. This serves as the architecture for a specific alternate digital ecosystem. The database forces entirely incompatible entities, like sovereign states, United Nations treaties, and global pop culture icons, into a single, unified list. By reverse engineering the document's table of contents, we map the exact schema of this fabricated world. At a scale of 4.8 million nodes, this dataset functions as an exercise in synthetic world building. This visualization represents the document's table of contents, converted into an entity relationship diagram. It serves as the foundational blueprint for the entire system. Look specifically at the macro-level nodes. The system allocates distinct branches for political blocs and UN systems. In the real world, these are external, overarching authorities. Here, the database categorizes global infrastructure as mere internal meta tags. The United Nations is stripped of its geopolitical weight and ingested directly into the private directory as a subcategory. In data science, we call this algorithmic flattening. It occurs when a database assigns the exact same hierarchical value to a sovereign nation as it does to a regional sports team. To achieve this, the Princess Heartline system visually rebrands global governance, assigning UN agencies this proprietary gold laurel icon. Global broadcasting networks receive similar treatment, categorized under this interconnected node symbol. By absorbing real-world governing bodies and rewriting their visual identity, the architecture completely subordinates them. They exist only to serve the logic of the synthetic database. This rigid categorization extends downward from macro-level geopolitics directly into the demographic data of the 4.8 million individual members. The population is not organic. It is generated through a strict programmatic constraint divided into 4 specific generational cohorts. This chart displays the resulting distribution. The numbers dictate exactly 1.2 million individuals in the millennial cohort, 1.2 million for Gen Z, 1.2 million for Gen Alpha, and 1.2 million for Gen Beta. Looking at this pie chart, we visualize the statistical impossibility of that distribution. A natural human population doesn't divide into 4 perfect equal quadrants. Organic growth creates messy, asymmetrical bell curves. This system violently rejects that asymmetry, forcing a rigid 25% split. The model even projects data into the future, pre-populating the Gen Beta cohort to maintain symmetry up through the year 2026. That absolute mathematical perfection proves the population is a parametrically constrained simulation. It is entirely divorced from organic human reality. To manage those millions of simulated demographic profiles, the system employs a highly specific micro-level sorting mechanism. It uses a protocol labeled Castlemates as the primary method for node clustering. The operation is massive, taking the nearly 5 million entries and dividing them uniformly into exactly 3,000 distinct groups. This is a brute force algorithmic process. It grabs identities and forces them into narrow, structured buckets regardless of their real-world relationships. We can examine the direct output of this logic by isolating a single cluster, designated Crystal 1 Amber Crystal. The result is a bizarre juxtaposition. The alphabetical cluster forces local individuals like Avogat Isidro and Abby Morano right next to each other. But the same sorting logic also pulls in global pop icons. Here, Adele is assigned to the exact same list. The schema calculates no difference between them. Mathematically, it assigns the international celebrity the identical relational weight as an unknown user. This is a systemic feature. Look further down the directory and Beyoncé is processed with the exact same flattening algorithm. We define this effect as semantic convergence. When a database strips global icons and arbitrary local identities of their context, they are forced into a homogenized digital existence. Looking at this complete entity relationship diagram, we can see the full scope of this architected ecosystem. From the UN macrostructures down to the individual castlemates, 4.8 million nodes are connected in a dense web. For a symbiotic world to survive external logic, it requires one final component, an internal mechanism for verification. The final sections of the official directory are dedicated exclusively to digital protocols and verification. The validation layer is represented by this proprietary security iconography. The system mathematically validates its own highly arbitrary groupings. It treats these absurd demographic and geopolitical outputs as unassailable, secure data. As this diagram shows, this creates a completely closed loop. The entire architecture seals itself off, rejecting any contradictory external facts. The finalized branding of this alternate reality places proprietary territorial pins over a gold globe. By combining massive data scale, rigidly observed categorization, and internal cryptographic verification, the artifact successfully synthesizes a functional